Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. So I went to a DJ contest last night and it was an absolute disaster. Don't get me wrong, although I had an absolute mare, I still had so many experiences from it which I want to share with you because there's some things I learned from it which if I share, you might actually even do a better job than I did because you'll be pre-warned. But really, the disaster came down to me taking this rather than me taking this. So if you want to find out what I mean, stay tuned. So the contest that I went to last night was Our House, Your House. It was a BBC introducing event at Blues Kitchen in Manchester. And when I went, suddenly I got this feeling that this is serious. This is cool. Because in the queue outside, massive queue, there were a couple of cameramen coming up and down, taking photos and a bit of videography. So I had my headphones in hand and I kind of felt ready to go. Went in, signed up, it was a bit of a raffle. You got a 15-minute set and you can play. If your name came out of the raffle, they'll be calling out 4 DJs every hour on the hour. I wasn't called out for the first hour or the second hour or the third hour. And when it came to the 4th hour, I started to think, this ain't gonna happen. But it was still cool because the vibe was really cool in there. But then, because it was getting later and the place started, it wasn't as busy. I think some of the DJs, I reckon there must have been about 100 DJs that turned up. And I figure I had like a 1 in 4, 1 in 5 chance of getting picked. So I think some people must have given up and left because in the last draw, when they called out the 4 DJs, nobody went forward. And I think this is my first lesson for myself. I nearly went home. I nearly went home after the 3rd hour of standing there, even though it was good fun to be there. You kind of start to lose hope. And I thought, well, hang on, if I leave, you'll never know if you get called out or not. So if you're not going to put the hard yards in, then why turn up at all? So that's my first thing. You've got to be resilient in this. Anything worth doing, you've got to put your shift in. So I waited. They called out 4 DJs, and once again, my name wasn't in there. But then these 4 DJs didn't turn up, and so they called out another 2 DJs. They didn't turn up. They called out another 2 DJs and they didn't turn up. I'm thinking, come on, surely it's me soon. So then they called out another DJ. I heard someone go, yeah, that's me. And I was thinking, oh, okay, I wonder if I'll do it again. And they called out Ebo. My name's Ebo707. But I was like, yeah, that's me. I was in. And this is where all that waiting kind of comes to a point and it all goes a little bit wrong. There was a green room, I hadn't really realised this, and I had some experiences here. I was in a green room for the first time, and you went in and there was some DJs sat around, there was the BBC people that were there too, and the guy who'd been going up and down in the queue said, I'm just going to put a mic on you, we're just going to do a quick interview. I had my first ever interview, and so I guess here's my second lesson. I like to be prepared. I was not prepared for that. He asked me all sorts of questions, which I didn't give the best answer to. And I think if you ever find yourself putting yourself forward for things, maybe you'll remember this video, just think of some better answers than I gave. He asked me questions like, if you were going to play a set and it only included 1 song, what would that set be? If you were going to play a track that you knew would empty the dance floor, what would that track be? If you were going to go back to back with a DJ, who would that be? Now, I can think of all of that right now, but boy, when you're excited, you can't think of things like that. So yeah, I guess my advice to myself now is I'm going to think of loads of questions like that to ask myself, or at least to write down. So if I ever am interviewed again, and hopefully you can think of this for yourself, then you've got a few of those answers and you can be a bit better and more prepared than me. But that wasn't the disaster. Me fluffing up a few interview questions wasn't the issue. Had my experience in the green room, had a bottle of water, got told I was up next, and this is where it all went wrong. So I went out onto the stage, had my headphones, I took my headphone bag, and I always carry 2 USBs because I learned from somebody, there's a guy called Mark Tew, who's a DJ coach who I worked with for quite a while. And it isn't just about DJing and the things you learn, it's the things that support you DJing that are also really important. And he taught me, take 2 USBs because you never know what's going to happen. And I thought what was going to happen was if the decks aren't linked, for example, you'll still need to put 1 USB in one deck and the other USB in the other. Or if 1 USB fails, you've got a backup. So here we go. I put my USB in. The other DJ is still playing and I'm crowding her space as she's playing a techno set. I put my USB in and I'm looking around like, yeah, these are CDJ 2000 Nexus 2s. Okay, that's fine. I can work my way around these. Let's just work out where this source button is. Not reading my USB. Absolute panic setting. So this other DJ is still playing. I can see the people behind me going, just use that one, use that one. Took my USB out, strolled around the DJ, put it in this one, and as soon as it couldn't read it, I knew it was up. But I had my spare USB, and even though that wasn't what saved me, I'm happy I had it because then I knew I'd prepared as best I could to a certain degree, and you'll find out in a second how I could have prepared better. But put the second USB in, same problem. They actually had a third deck. I didn't know they were going to have that there, else I wouldn't have prepped the way I had. But anyway, put it in that, didn't work. Now, I didn't want to make a fuss. I'd had a great time, and I think it's always important to leave a really good impression. So I just said, look, it's not going to work, and I didn't want to hold up the next DJs because it was getting late. So I said, I'll just go back there, and I took my USBs, and I went back into the green room. Now, one of the guys in there, I've just followed him on Instagram, was an absolute legend. He had CDJs and he said, that's happened to me before. It's your USB. So I've got these SanDisks, and on the CDJ 3000s, I think the format that I've got these in is NTFS. Now I hadn't realized that I couldn't just plug these into another set of Pioneer gear. Now, some of you might be watching and actually just pointing and laughing because you knew that. I didn't. Hopefully, to those of you who didn't know that and you don't fall into that same trap as me, those decks, and in fact probably the safer way to go, is to have this type of USB. Now, this one I'm pointing at specifically, it came out my MPC, and it just so happens that this is a FAT32 format USB. That's what the decks needed, not NTFS. The reason it works on the 3000s is they're just more updated, and when I did some further reading, they made them be able to support more formats of USBs, but those 2000 Nexuses, they were FAT32. Had I known that, I would have taken this, and it was too late. But even though that was a disaster, and I'd been so close, I stood there, up on the decks, the audience was there, and I was ready. Hands were shaking slightly, a bit of nervous energy. I don't mind, because I learned some stuff from that. I mean, yeah, I waited 5 hours to not play, but I learned that lesson, I think, in the best possible way. Imagine if, and I'm trying to go after some festivals, I finally get booked for a festival for an hour set of my own, I go all the way down to something, because it's probably not going to be on my doorstep, and that happened. Not only would that be bad for me, it'd be bad for my credibility. They would have to get another DJ to go on. It's just bad all round. So I don't mind learning the lesson that way. And actually the guy that I met in the green room, who was part of Our House, Your House, so shout out to them, he was so cool. He's like, look, we'll get you on another time. Don't worry about it. This has happened to me. I had a really good chat with him. I took a picture of his USB and I was like, yeah, I've got one of those. I put it in my MPC. I just hadn't appreciated the difference. So I networked. I learned about USBs. I had my first ever interview, and I was in a green room. I mean, I think that's a success, and I don't mind this. So I want to share this short video with you. I'm actually working on some other content, which is further to a subscriber asking me to do some more detail on one of the videos I sent before, one of the videos I posted before, which was about where I put my cues and how I actually put my set together when something's blank. So I'm going to be putting that together for you in the next few days. But I just thought I'd share that. Hopefully I've either got you laughing because you're sitting there thinking, you fool, I'd never make that mistake. Or I've got you thinking, oh my God, I will never make that mistake now myself. So yeah, enjoy. Thanks for watching.